everyone, my name is Shannon and welcome to my channel. So today we are going to be diving into a compilation from like 10 years ago of the Jerry Springer Show celebrating its 20th anniversary or something like that. And so it's a compilation they did of their best transgender or transsexual episodes. This has actually been kind of a popular topic on trans channels, like going back and reacting to this compilation clip. And for the most part, I agree with the observations made on other transgender channels. You know, when thinking, is this clip really as bad as they say it is? And yeah, it is as bad. There are a few things that I think I can add. I think people looking back at something from 20 years ago might not understand some of the context, and so I kind of want to talk about some of that. But we'll just get right into it. I'll pull up the video and we can watch it together. Okay, so let me get my phone. This is actually really exciting for me because I've never done a reaction video before, like a reaction video of this style. So let's see. All right, the clip is called Best Transsexuals, 20 Years of the Jerry Springer Show. Oh, this already sounds exciting.
Welcome back to Times Square. We're here celebrating 20 years of wild, crazy, fist-throwing action. Can you believe my show's been on the air for the past 20 years?
No, I can't, Jerry. It's a national tragedy that this is the case.
You never know what's going to happen when a beautiful woman walks out on my stage with something to reveal. She may be hiding more than you know. The best of the best have always been the transgender secrets. You never know what the reaction will be. Take a look at the best transsexual.
This is like oddly flattering to me, like the best transsexuals. It makes you think you're about to watch like a trans beauty pageant or something, which depending on how you look at it, this could be interpreted as such.
I'm really a man.
So this is the part that like most of the channels are most disturbed by, is like the amount of like trans people who would say I'm really a man, or like the people who would say, oh, that's really a man, which I kind of feel the same way because like I don't really like to think of myself as really a man. I mean, like I know like I'm not delusional, like I know that I'm transgender, I'm really biologically male, but from that perspective you could say like I'm really biologically male, but there has to be like an asterisk next to that word male, because what's funny is like most of these trans girls on here are like the type that were like gay boys who transition, and like so if they were not like regular men, you know what I mean? Which you know some people might say, what is a regular man? But I think people kind of, there's an instinctive understanding. Like one observation that I noticed another person make that I agree with is like when you're someone who's like a very feminine like boy who gets called like an SISSY and so forth and so on, people make fun of you for being like a girl, you know what I mean? Like even in like clips of like from like comedy shows, not so much lately because it's not PC, but like back in like the 90s, like shows like In Living Color, I was trying to find a clip, they would show like these like parodies of like gay men like fighting, like these very like flamboyant, effeminate gay men, and like they would be like slap fighting like girls, you know what I mean? And so like, there seems like an acknowledgement that these boys are not like regular men, they're more like girls.
Gasp and swoon, I just caught the vapors. We're gonna have to give this one 2 snaps up in a circle.
But when someone like that transitions, you'll see on the show, these guys react as if that person under their wig is just a regular aggressive guy who can go fist to fist or whatever the expression is. Like, so you can't help but feel like what these people or what like society kind of has a problem with or like wants to make fun of is just the idea of a feminized male in general, whether that be like a gay man or someone who transitions. Like they're gonna have a problem with either group, with either or. And the way that they rationalize it between each group, the gay men and the gay men who transition, it's not always logical and consistent. I forget how I got off on this tangent, but yeah, you'll see what I'm talking about, like with the fighting. Like,
Oh, come on.
like in most of these where like a fight breaks out, I highly doubt that the trans person would be winning that fight. But anyway, back to the thing about like saying I'm really a man or she's really a man. Okay, so I think people are looking at this a little bit through like a 2021 perspective. Like now it's very like not in vogue to use that terminology, but that is the terminology that most people use. I know back and found a clip trying to figure out if the Jerry Springer show was real or if it was fake, and there was like this, like some sort of special on it on like primetime TV in like the 90s, and that was the terminology that like the news anchors were using.
Meet Delta, not her real name, of course. That's because she is a he. Delta has come to the Jerry Springer show to confront her brother Sam, who doesn't approve of her lifestyle as a woman. These are Jerry Springer's guests, and the only thing we can say about them for sure is that Delta is a man.
I don't think people necessarily meant anything bad by saying that. It was just the way that they understood it back then. So it's not crazy. If someone were to say, oh, there's Shannon, you know, Shannon, she used to be a man, or she's really a man. I wouldn't like that. I don't like the way that that sounds, but like it's not illogical to say that. I think I like where we are now, where we've like gotten to a place where we start to like question what that really means, like why a person transitions. The fact that you can be biologically male, but like more inclined to be more like a woman and want to live as a woman. And so people, I think, when they say, oh, Shannon is transgender, that's more acknowledging what that means. Whereas when they say she used to be a man, that context might be lost. I don't know if that makes sense. This is not a scripted video, if you can't tell. But anyway, now that we've gotten that part of the way, don't point to a transgender person and say that's really a man. It's not very nice. Oh, please.
You have a secret.
Yes.
What's your secret?
I was born to be a man.
I love the way she phrases it. Not I was born a man, I was born to be a man. Which I think kind of there's some nuance there. Like what she was saying is like she was supposed to be a man, but she was not inclined to be what people expected her to be based on her sex. That makes sense, you know, like someone who's very effeminate and someone who liked girl stuff and one liked being pretty and so ended up growing up to be a transsexual or a trans woman or whatever we're calling it now. Another thing is like when she says, I was born to be a man, if I had scripted this, I would have addressed all of this at the same time, but I've actually noticed that like this is more common like among like Black trans women or like trans women of color or whatever. Like I've known Black trans women like when I was living, I'm from Alabama, and so when I was in college, there was a more of a gay scene there, and there were some trans women, especially I knew a couple of the Black trans women, and they tended to describe themselves in like, not necessarily, they might not say explicitly, I'm really a man, but they would like say things acknowledging that they were male, and they would say things like, I believe this is kind of delusional, but they would tell if a guy gives them a problem, they'd be like, well, you know, we're both men, so I can fight him, or even though like in the same breath they would be calling themselves a girl. Like it's very like, it's kind of a complicated thing. Like in other cultures, they have the concept of like being a third gender. In Thailand, they're called ladyboys, and in Brazil, they're called travestis, so forth and so on. And so I think in those cultures, I think there's an element of it among like some like Black trans women and trans women of color. There's an element of like not seeing yourself as like the same as a regular woman. So like you see yourself as like some sort of like hybrid of the two, I guess, maybe.
Well, you about to make me go straight over there, honey, putting those titties in my face like that.
And I think that people, even trans people who are not from that background, might not understand why this is not crazy to her or to any other Black trans women on here to say, I was born to be a man. Like, I think that's just the way they conceptualize it. I've seen some people saying that, like, there's no way a trans woman will go on TV saying that unless she's being paid. And, like, there's undoubtedly some element of that in here, but I think that there's also some cultural context to take into account.
You know how we have conversations and I tell you, yeah, I mean, that I'm different than most of the guys that you met and been with and stuff?
Because you are.
Yeah, I know I am, but I'm a little more different than what you think. It's not that I'm sensitive and all of that. I'm a girl.
She's really pretty. The girl here, oh my God. She's like, I want to look like that. For anyone who denies that there are differences between men and women, or like biological males and biological women, or the people who think that like gender is like socially constructed, and maybe there's an argument to be made there. Like you can't help but notice that the way that the girls react on here, whenever their boyfriend who's really trans tells them the secret, they don't react violently. Like it's disbelief, they may not be happy about it, but it's not the same like macho performance that you get from the guys. It's just, that's interesting to me.
You all right, Mo?
You all right?
You can't be a girl.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
It was decent.
She don't know about the strap-ons, does she?
I was born a boy.
This one's actually cute. It's actually really sweet.
Well, I think I haven't had any luck with any of my relationships in the past, so I say the hell with it, I'm gonna go for it.
Brittany's about to become a father, but Brittany is still holding on to her dress. There are two viewers who called us after the last time Brittany was on, and here are Alicia and Maria.
Oh, that's my favorite part. I feel like that could be like scripted, or like I could totally imagine like two friends trying to be cute on TV and like coming up with that backstage. This is ratchet.
Want a boy. Baby, I know it's hard for you to like understand because, you know.
So you're a man?
No, I'm not a man. I was born a boy.
Freak!
A freak?
Touch me?
So I'm a freak now. So this is what it is? Won't you talk to me?
See, this is what I was talking about before.
So first you're going to tell her that you're sleeping with her man. You're going to tell her, by the way, I'm not even a woman. Or, well, I used to be.
Right.
Are you now, is it post-op? I mean, have you?
No, I'm a preoperative transsexual.
You're pre-op, okay.
What is that?
Marsha,
What is you doing?
you know that I love
So
you.
you gay?
No, I'm
You
not.
gay now?
I'm straight. I did it one time.
She brought you on the Jerry Springer show after one sexual encounter? That sounds logical.
And I regret it. You
One
know that I love
time.
you.
What time?
But you know that I love you, Marsha.
The reason I can't get you pregnant is because I don't have the right equipment.
What do you mean you don't have the right equipment?
I was born a female.
I want to tell you something about me that you need to know before we move any further. Okay. I'm a man.
I mean, you a man.
Okay, I've seen enough. Let's dive into the analysis part. So, it's not fun watching stuff like that. Not so much because of like the language that's being used or anything like that, which, you know, I think people will be bothered by it, but it's like the way that like these trans women are being treated. That's very hard to watch because sometimes it can be very unfair. But, you know, obviously if you're dealing with someone, seeing someone, and you're not being honest with them, then you're opening yourself up to that. And some of these cases, I question how contrived it is. Like, some of them are harder to believe that like the other person didn't know. Sometimes I wonder if it's just two people who just responded to a prompt. You know how at the end of those, like the Jerry Springer show and more show, that say, if you're in this situation, call this number and we'll put you on TV. Like, I'd be interested to like know like if this show ever has been like fully exposed. And it seems like the consensus seems to be that like there's no way to really know that like the show tries to make sure that people are telling the truth, but there's kind of like a don't ask, don't tell policy. So they're kind of encouraged to go in there like and exaggerate. So there's like some truth in the story, but they're exaggerating it, playing it up, making it more and more outlandish. Because there'd be no purpose on like putting two people in a normal situation on TV unless they can make it TV worthy. The thing you have to like really remember when you're watching this clip too is that like shows like Jerry Springer are often referred to as trash TV, and that's really what they are. And I think that people watch those shows to feel better about their lives, and also I think to see like they want to see some aspect of like things they go through in life reflected, and they want to see people act that out or act that scenario out. Like when you're watching Jerry Springer show or like the Maury show, like sometimes when the people are on stage going back and forth, like it almost seems like sometimes like they're making it up as they go along. It reminds me of like when I took like an improv class. That's one of my favorite conversation starters to bring up. I took an improv class once, but it does like you can tell like it's where one person like reveals some information and the other person ups the stakes by revealing something that like contradicts that or makes the situation even crazier.
Oh, whatever. You ain't tough, ho. I
I run with gangs. Oh, yeah? I run with 12 gangs, and we only commit hate crimes. Whatever, I'll do what I want.
So yeah, while I don't love watching those clips, there's a suspicion that I have that like one of the reasons that topic was so popular on those shows, like during the 90s and 2000s and so forth, is because I think sometimes when people are interested in a group of people or are kind of fascinated by them, they try to like engage with that group of people in the way that is culturally, socially feasible at the time. I don't know if this makes sense. I wish I'd written this out, but like, I'll give you an example. Like, people have given the comedian Dave Chappelle a lot of flack because he's like made his transgender jokes over the last few years in some of his stand-up specials. And sometimes when I watch it, I get the feeling that he's trying to like wrap his head around what trans people are all about. He's coming at it from a place where like that was not a part of his culture before. And so the way that he goes about that is through making jokes and like trying to rationalize it. You can notice like in his stand-up that he gets more and more sympathetic towards trans people. And so I'm not excusing someone making jokes at trans people's expense. I'm not excusing the Jerry Springer show for obviously exploiting trans people, but I think that like it was a different cultural moment at the time. There hadn't been that level of activism yet. People going on TV, going to protests, doing things, trying to get more representation. So there really was no way to do a show about trans people unless it was something that was sensationalizing it. I do genuinely think that people are fascinated by trans people in general. It's kind of like, I guess it's kind of, you can kind of compare it to like how like the little boy in kindergarten who like pulls a girl's hair because he likes her. Maybe he has a crush on her, maybe it's just he just thinks she's interesting and wants to get to know her. Like, I think there's kind of a similar thing going on with this show. I think people have to remember that like back then, there had not been the same amount of activism, not the same like sort of cultural reset, I guess you would call it, where there's room to like have more nuanced discussions about trans people or to have more nuanced representation of trans people. If you wanted to engage your audience with the idea of people who are trans, like back then, there wasn't really room for it, like, and society hadn't been pushed towards it yet. So I don't think we can necessarily look back at people watching that show in the early 90s and think they are terrible people. It's just they were responding to a different set of social circumstances. I don't know. It's definitely like opening up a time capsule watching this video. For me, I think it's okay to like look back at it, kind of laugh at it, kind of be glad that we've moved, at least that we've noticeably progressed as a society since then, and just kind of let it go. I don't think it's worth like digging up and making a big deal over now. I hope there aren't people like trying to like cancel Jerry Springer the person now over this something from 20 years ago. The world has changed since then. I think it's fine to look at it now, laugh at it, recognize the discomfort, and I think it's fine to point out that like this is not acceptable anymore. But I feel like I see some people kind of reacting to it as if it were new, as if that show had aired like last year as opposed to 30 years ago. Like, I think you just kind of have to let it go. I think inevitably with time, our reality shows reflect whatever the norms of our moment are. Like, people are still going to watch shows, not necessarily shows that are just like the Jerry Springer show, but people are going to still watch like trash TV because for the same reasons that they watched Jerry Springer 30 years ago, because they want to see aspects of their life reflected back to them, because they want to feel better about their own lives, because they want to see someone going through something worse than what they've gone through and handling it worse than they handle it. All those reasons. I think that's an aspect of like human nature that maybe we shouldn't necessarily be proud of, but it's just something that's always going to be there. And, I think people in every era, if people are being like sort of treated unfairly, it's up to like the bravest people in society, the most outspoken people in society to try to do something about it so that the next era is not like that, or that the next era is better. And I do think that people have done that for the transgender community, and I'm very appreciative of that. So I guess that's all I have to say on this. I don't know. If you want a deeper dive into this topic, then just let me know. I'm sure that there's like more ground to be covered here, but in the meantime, I hope this video was entertaining, interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and get off here because these lashes are hurting my eyes. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye, y'all.
It's you.